convincing story that maps onto reality, and that's why the central narrative is falling apart.
Right now in the United States, people should not be walking around with masks.
We must see the central narrative for the fiction that it is. We are Americans.
While elections are sometimes messy, this was a secure election.
The founders began the fight for human liberty and self-governance, and it's up to us to finish the job.
I tell you what, we are in a truth emergency right now.
This is the end game.
Moderator for tonight's broadcast.
All the people that have gone out there against the mainstream media and said, you're going to call us racist, you're going to call us potential Timothy McVeighs, fuck you. War.
बजने ते धड़क धड़क ढोल ताश धड़क धड़क भंडारा झिड़क झिड़क मल्हारी खड़क धड़क भड़क साली चटक मटक फटक साली दुश्मन की देखो जो फट लावली बजने ते धड़क धड़क ढोल ताश धड़क धड़क भंडारा झिड़क झिड़क मल्हारी खड़क धड़क भड़क साली चटक मटक फटक साली दुश्मन की देखो जो फट लावली बजने दे धड़क धड़क ढोल ताश धड़क धड़क भंडारा झिड़क झिड़क मल्हारी खड़क धड़क भड़क साली चटक मटक फटक साली दुश्मन की देखो जो फट लावली बड़ी चली जो थी चिंगारी छोटी चिंगारी भरी 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 है मन की अलमारी आज अलमारी हुई सतरंगी चाली सतरंगी हुई सतरंगी थी जो ये रात काली खड़क धड़क भड़क साली चटक मटक फटक साली दुश्मन की देखो जो फट लावली.
Immensely seductive. Quite sure he's right. An obsessionally neurotic. Pretty dangerous, in fact.
Do you mean you doubt your powers to convince him?
Worse than that. What I'm afraid of is his power to convince me.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories.
Sweetheart, be reasonable.
All right, so here we are. It is Wednesday, August 7th, 2024, the 1,295th day of dystopia. I'm your moderator, Chris Paul. Let's be reasonable. All right, everybody, it's the Wednesday live stream. I sent the link around a little late, so I hope that everybody found it in time, and I'm hoping that a few people at least had time to think of some questions and subscribe. I'm seeing the word decorum, so that's always fun. Let's do some fun and also enlightening, of course, news stories. We'll just start out there while people pile in and say some things, and then we will get going. Lots of people saying hello. Shiny, happy people laughing. Shiny, happy people holding hands. We were talking about some of the election integrity efforts, and I say that in quotes with sarcasm, because although there are real election integrity efforts in the country, and I don't mean to belittle those, because I think that they're great, as I said yesterday, for exposing the system and for teaching people exactly what that system is. But this system is not going to be fixed through on-the-ground election integrity efforts that appeal to illegitimate government officials, even if those people don't understand their illegitimacy. The system is designed to create as many loopholes as possible. And if you are able to close one of those loopholes, it does not mean that you were able to close all the loopholes. And very few things could be more obvious. And if you can't close all the loopholes, you can't have an election. There's nothing that could ever be clearer. How much cheating do you tolerate? If the election is not transparent and not verifiable, and they won't let you look, what good is it that they also tell you there's going to be less cheating this time around? I hate to be a hard ass about this stuff, because some people think that it's, I don't know, in some way blackpilling, or it's going to encourage people not to vote. I don't give a damn whether or not people vote. I don't care who they vote for. We should stop talking about things like that. All right. Trying to convince people to vote for someone in a fake election is retarded. The elections have to be fixed. If they're not fixed, it doesn't matter who anyone votes for. You can't produce a legitimate government like that. Why would anyone participate in a legitimate government? Why would you grovel to authority and allow an illegitimate government to rule you? You were told the system is a certain way. That's the deal. That's what people agree to. If the system's not that way, that's not what you were born into. That's not what you were promised. That's not what these very people have told you the system is. So, I don't know, man. Thinking that we're going to defeat as many people will say it is, 2,000-year-old satanic cabal by pressing buttons on an iPad screen attached to a black box, you're out of your mind. And the fact that there are so many people out there who believe that we are facing a 2,000-year-old satanic death cult and think that we can do it that way, I don't know what to tell you about that. Like, I get that that's where beliefs in Trump and beliefs in Q have led you. I think that that's okay. And hell, maybe you might be right. Maybe there's some scenario over the course of the next few months where our election gets cleaned up so much that we can have an election, and it comes from election integrity efforts in states and lawsuits already filed. I would love it. I would love it. But that's not the situation we're in now. Okay. I would love if they could prove that elections were legitimate and that the results would be transparent and verifiable by everybody. I would love that. I don't want to tear down the entire system. I would love if the system can start at a place of legitimacy and then we can work outward from that. I'm fine to do that. And I'm not in a rush to to finish that project. I don't think we need a wrecking ball for everything. I want to make that perfectly clear. But until such time as we have legitimate elections, and that's what we're going for, then we can't grovel. This is the leverage, and no one wants to use their leverage. It's like the only way that you can make your vote real is the one thing people don't want to do and don't want to talk about. They don't want to admit that the elections are rigged and stolen. They are broken beyond repair. And without that, we do not have legitimate governments. People are worried, what's going to happen if we don't have a government? We already don't have a government. I don't know. Call me crazy. I'm radical just for expecting that the government of the people's representatives, the government that intends to represent the people, I'm just expecting that to be the one that the people choose. That's our birthright. Doesn't anybody care? Nobody cares anymore? Okay. This is from Monday. I saw a headline about this today. I'm not quite so sure this is the exciting revelation that the headline made it seem, like that there was going to be this massive ballot tracking effort. That actually cited the Georgia Election Board. So if something happened in their meeting today that I have missed, by all means, send that over. I have looked for it and I cannot find it. This is what I can find on Georgia ballot tracking. If you can find the other thing that the elections board did something in addition to this, wonderful. But this is Raffensperger's office in the Secretary of State's office. Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, announced Monday that the state has partnered with Enhanced Voting to bring the Ballot Scout tool to voters across the state. This cutting-edge platform will provide Georgia voters with real-time updates on their absentee by mail ballots, enhancing transparency and confidence in the voting process. Now, we remember all the uproar about the U.S. Postal Service back in 2020. Trump put in, I think his name was DeJoy. The regime and the Uniparty freaked out about that relationship. We had the mailboxes hoax, where people in Burbank thought that the Blue City mailboxes were being taken away so that by Trump and his new postmaster general, so that they couldn't drop their mail-in ballots in mailboxes. That was a real thing. So we know Trump was doing something there with the Postal Service. The Postal Service, I believe, is an intelligence agency, or at least has a law enforcement arm. I don't know if it's worth it to go into. You guys can make the call on that. We can look it up and figure some of that stuff out. But we've also heard talk about blockchain. I know that my good buddy John Harold just talked about that the other night in my absence on the Devolution Power Hour, or at least I believe that they did. And we've heard about an Elon Musk related blockchain voting. No, I'm sorry. An Elon Musk conversation with Donald Trump about blockchain voting. There's some Elon Musk blockchain voting thing going on too. So if this is a front-facing version of that, that the media will have a very hard time arguing against because they've blown Brad Raffensperger up for a few years, so be it. I would rather be wrong about all of these people and everything I've ever said so that we can have good elections. I'll go find some other line of work. I'm totally down for that. Have real, verifiable elections that are fully transparent. Everyone can check them. We know 100% that everything is real, and I will gladly not do media anymore. Yeah, so, I try not to be pessimistic about this stuff. I'd love to take the optimistic view on all of it as well. I haven't seen it. It could all be just happening along a timeline meant to come out right now, all good, all good. But if someone is constructing our reality, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that there's a good guy version of that that's different than the bad guy version. Because at that point, it would just be a change of opinion, both a difference of opinion, I should say. Both of those are lies on both sides. Nobody should be satisfied with that. Voters across the state who sign up for Ballot Scout will receive notifications about their absentee ballots, including when the county election office marks their ballot as issued and when it is received back from the voter. This service will offer notifications via text, email, or voice call, ensuring voters are informed every step of the way. Ballot Scout represents a major advancement in how we manage and track ballots, said Raffensperger. With this tool, voters in Georgia can stay informed and confident about their voting experience, knowing where their ballot is throughout the entire process. Voters who previously enrolled in similar tracking tools will be automatically transitioned to Ballot Scout. Additionally, in the coming days, Georgia voters will be able to enroll in Ballot Scout and check updates on their absentee by mail ballots through the Georgia My Voter page. This initiative supports Secretary Raffensperger's long-term vision to enhance the security and efficiency of the election process, no matter which way a voter casts their ballot. This advancement reflects his ongoing commitment to adopting seamless technology that improves both the security of absentee voting and voter peace of mind. And that is the real goal. That's the real goal. They just said it. I would not want to improve people's peace of mind. The process over the course of many years would be what produces the peace of mind. God damn, man, these people are psychotic. Ballot Scout is revolutionizing the way Georgians engage with their electoral process. By using this platform, voters can monitor their ballot's journey from submission of a ballot request to the counting of the ballot. This tracking system empowers voters with the ability to verify that their vote has been received and processed correctly, thereby reinforcing trust in the electoral system. All right, man. Okay. So I tried to be optimistic. I tried. Let's see. Where are the problems with this? First off, this is the Pizza Tracker app from Domino's, and they're applying it to your ballot. That's what this is. Okay. This is not high-tech ballot security stuff. They'll probably have the same level of security that they have on your Pizza Hut app. Did I say Domino's before? They both have pizza trackers, right? So that's problem number one. Second, technology may be a solution in our elections, but that's not a guarantee. And one thing that is not a guarantee about the technology is that being able to track your ballot as a human is going to increase election integrity. The machines don't count the votes correctly. So that your vote was counted doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. I wish it did mean something, but it doesn't. Okay? You can vote, they can count your vote, and they're still not counting your vote. It's not a different way than I'm saying. And then, of course, we have the problem that the human votes are almost entirely not the issue. There is definitely malfeasance with legitimate votes cast by humans being eliminated in some way, not counted, or counted and then manipulated. That is part of the problem, 100%. A much, much bigger problem is that they print ballots out for people who aren't ever going to vote them. They're not ever going to touch them. It's not that they're going to receive the ballot and think about it and be like, nah, I'm not voting. They're never going to see or touch their vote because all the registrations are illegitimate registrations that they have pushed through the system in one way or another. And the ballots where the theft will occur in the mail-in ballot process is with all of those ballots. At best, this is one minute part of probably a 5 or 10 step strategy, at least, to make sure that every part of the mail-in ballot security was actually covered. They're not going to do that. The reason they have this stuff is to cheat. I mean, wow, man. That kind of stuff blows me away. Oh, we're going to improve your peace of mind. See this? We have an app now. Oh, look, you can watch your ballot fly through the air. What the hell are we doing? Really is mind-blowing to me, man. It really is. And again, call me pessimistic. Say that I'm negative. I don't care. This is not an election system. This is a fake election system. Our participation is adding on, as I said the other day, an organic element to a fake event. That is what we are doing in these elections. We are participating in our own self-delusion. And that self-delusion keeps the system going. And all the money to focus all of our attention on this act of self-delusion, all of that is worth it because they can control everyone through it. Think about what that means. The amount of money that is spent convincing Americans that they are self-governing, convincing the people of the world that they are self-governing. That's what all the money is spent on. That's what the media is for. Convince me otherwise. Someone convince me otherwise. The left, oh, you got all these smart intellectuals. No, you don't. There's nobody over there. Okay. Let's continue. Breitbart. Lawsuits. RNC challenging state's acceptance of late mail-in ballots. Oh, we're going to do it better this time. We've figured out which states won't have their elections going late, and you'll never guess who it is. They'll just play a shell game, and everybody will be like, well, yeah, but at least Florida fixed their elections or some shit, you know, whatever state it is. People want to get the hose again. Republicans are challenging several states that allow mail-in ballots to be counted after Election Day if they were postmarked on or before the day of voting, saying that such allowances threaten the integrity of our elections. Now, that is certainly true. It's certainly true. If you are sending in a mail-in ballot and you are waiting till the day of the election to do that, got to be retarded. You got to be retarded. I don't know, man. Approximately 20 states and Washington, D.C. accept these late ballots in order to make room for postal issues and people who do not remember to mail their votes until Election Day, according to NPR. The Republican National Committee and others have filed suits in Nevada, Illinois, Mississippi, and North Dakota to prevent this from happening. But all the challenges except the one in Illinois have already been thrown out by judges, arguing that the decision regarding the end of a federal election is up to Congress, not the states. RNC Election Integrity Communications Director Claire Zunk told the outlet that, quote, the election should end on Election Day. That's the law, and voters deserve fair and accurate results on November 5th, end quote. Obviously, that's true. Counting ballots that come in after Election Day in Mississippi and other states threatens election security and undermines transparency for voters, she added. Judge Luis Guirola, I guess, ruled against the Republican challengers in the Mississippi case, arguing that Congress did make allowances for some late ballots to be counted. in one federal statute, if one federal statute implicitly allows post-election receipt of overseas ballots mailed by election day, that statute is presumed not to offend against the election day statutes. So you see that? From which we may infer that the similar Mississippi statute on post-election receipt is likewise inoffensive. And are those the same thing? No, they sure aren't. So overseas ballots, which will, for the sake of these arguments, be considered almost exclusively to be military ballots. And so they will say, we have to do this. What do you want to do? Like stop the military from voting? And of course not, right? So this means that all ballots can come in. Like if the late arriving military ballots still must be counted at the end. And if the late arriving military ballots don't, I guess, pollute the outcome, if it's okay to count some votes after the fact, then it must be okay to count these other votes after the fact. And so then they get, whereas before it might have been, how many would be in a state like Mississippi? Maybe there's 10,000 of them or something. Now they could just, if this law applies broadly, however many mail-in ballots would be sent out, those could all come in with the same degree of lateness because that provision in federal law was made for military ballots primarily. Pretzel shit. All right. I want to talk about this. I don't know if you guys would have seen this, but oh man, always doing it wrong. So yesterday, the fake vice president named her fake vice president running mate, Tim Walz. And we're supposed to understand that Tim Walz is a Minnesota outdoorsman who enjoys tampons in the boys' room and transgender surgeries. He is simultaneously a degenerate communist and a smiley, glad-handing family man who everyone just loves. He allowed the burning down of Minneapolis, and there's no way in the world he was legitimately elected. But when you're choosing a fake vice president's fake vice president, those aren't the sorts of things that would throw your casting decision off. So Tim Walz has been cast, and they are going to maximize on Tim Walz's branding. They have made a big to-do about a hat. I mean, why not spend a day talking about a hat, right? Last night we were told that all of the lights in the stadium, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, were all about Taylor Swift. Oh, they just had these little devices that they give out at the Taylor Swift concerts. That's what's going on in the crowds. People are going crazy, like they were at a Taylor Swift concert. But it's just Philadelphia for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who she'd announced only hours earlier. We are in the middle of the television series proposed by Jeffrey Katzenberg that we talked about a few weeks ago, written up by Rosa Brooks. We're in the middle of it. People don't think we're in the middle of it, but we are. And they are just playing this drama out every day. They're going to, man, I don't know what they're going to do. It's, I really feel like they're going to make more alterations to these tickets, and we'll go through this, and then I'll tell you why. So this is CNN advertising CNN's own content as must-see TV on this whole hat thing.
I want to
show our viewers something that our colleague Josh Campbell just pointed out to me, and I believe we have it. It's new merch. All the campaigns get merch up really quickly. But this in particular, as Josh is pointing out, is in orange, blaze orange. It's a color used by hunters for safety purposes. And that's what Tim Walz is. He is a hunter. And the fact that that is one of the first things that they are selling, that tells you a lot about the way that they are trying to get the white men.
I might get one. That's not I mean, there's a way to style that hat that could fit in with the culture, you know? And I think that is actually what is happening is that they've
already got you. I think they're
but that's what my point is like. There's a way to say the same thing and speak to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's what tonight felt like, is that I know you don't agree and I
looks a little
appreciate
dyspeptic.
that, but I think that
I think they give you one of those hats as a reward for when they confiscate your guns. They give you a hat.
I think that, but here's the thing. He got on stage and talked about he is a gun owner. He believes in the Second Amendment. He's talking to all of Americans. I think in this campaign, we've done this thing where we say this word progressive as though it's a slur or it's a bad thing. The reality is that when you actually look at what progressive policies are, not all of them, but about 75% of them, whether it's paid family leave, whether it's the care agenda, because we all have aging parents that we need to take care of, whether it's paying teachers a fair wage because they are teaching our future, whether it's feeding hungry children, those are not issues that only affect one type of person. They affect every person. We've all had teachers. We've all had a coach. Whether we were good at sports or not, we know what it feels like to have a coach to lead and guide us. And that is what you heard tonight.
One of the
So, you know, a hat. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about a hat that a fake campaign is selling. And as I'll show you in a second, it's actually that a fake campaign is fake selling, which makes me just laugh even harder. So here's more coverage from CNN. They had multiple stories about the hat on their front page today. So here is Tim Walz in this hat. You see? Oh, what a handsome, smiling, happy communist he is. Look at that commie. Tim Walz, the happy face of communism. Oh, man. Tim Walz welcomes you, Bolshevik. God, look at these people. Okay. All right. So CNN wants to let you know that the Harris Walz hat was modeled after the merchandise of a quote unquote queer breakout pop star named Chappell Roan or Chappelle Roan. Oh, man. So, wait, hold on. Of course, they have now a co-branding campaign. So what they want to do is have this major pop influencer in the queer community talk about how cool it is that the fake vice president and her fake vice president stole his merch idea or your merch idea, zhurch idea. So that's a social media campaign that is meant to seem organic and natural. They have writers write these things. I used to write these things. How can we make this look? How can we appeal to these wide groups via these very influential influencers? Okay. Micro influencers. I don't know what the standard is now. Maybe it's 5,000 followers. Maybe they say 25,000 followers for a micro influencer. I don't know what it is. But what they'll do is seed all of this money out there and pay per post, $1,000, $1,500. And these people will just keep posting content that's supposed to seem really natural. They'll ask their fans, send me pictures of you in the Midwestern princess hat and the Harris Walls hat, like side by side. And then they'll make the campaign go viral. And every time this breakout queer pop star posts one of those posts and talks about how cool it is, he's going to get paid. That's what's happening here. Okay. This is a co-branding opportunity. And CNN and the media are advertising it to their audience as well, so that they will participate in it. And then when you see these kids and stuff wearing this hat and they're doing all the cool pop things, these totally detached from reality, aging parents wanting to seem cool, these kind of, 55-year-old liberals, they're going to be like, this is how I'm going to connect with my kid. And they will get that Harris Walls hat and they'll get the Midwest princess hat for their kid. They'll take pictures. And this is like how just a viral co-branding campaign will give the illusion that something major is happening in the political arena. That's exactly what they are trying to do on this. And everyone should understand it, okay? We got to stop getting tricked by this stuff. This is what it is. And the truth is, those commies and the standard issue villagers over there, they don't like getting tricked by this stuff. They don't think about this. They just think about the result because they are conditioned to wait for that result and anticipate that result. And oh, it really is a trend. People must really like this whole Harris Walls thing. This is how they just create these widespread delusions. It's insane. All right, 1 second. So let's look at this article a little bit. Here we go. While officially unintentional, the twinning of Walls' hat and Roan's merch comes hot off the heels of Harris's embrace of Charlie XCX's Brat Green, and appears as another instance of her campaign reacting quickly to the Gen Z zeitgeist. So, as I just said, hold on. So I saw another article, and I don't know if it's in here. It's not. So I saw another article that talked about how Tim Walz already wears hunting hats because he's a hunter. And so he was already wearing a hat just like this when Harris called him to offer him the job. Do you think that the video we saw of Harris calling and offering him the job was when Tim Walz found out he was getting the job? No, it's not. That was acting. Okay. And people don't understand how politicians are actors. They don't think of that as acting. They're like, okay, well, you're using a euphemism when you say that the politician is an actor. And often it is a euphemism, or it's obviously not a complete understanding of what the person is doing. But what you just saw Tim Walz doing in that video, is acting. Kamala Harris was acting. Imagine Donald Trump. I'm trying to think. Has Trump ever set up something like that? I don't think he has. Like, not even as a joke. God, it's so embarrassing. So here we go. Needless to say, the internet was quick to debate, joke, and discuss the hats, with Roan reposting one user's comical observation about the singer's LGBTQ following. How gay do you have to be to see hunting colors and think it's a Chappelle Roan thing? Others joked about the moment of mutual recognition when, quote, queer millennials and Zoomers who like Chappelle Roan and white boomers into hunting and fishing see each other wearing the camo Harris Walls hat. So they've created the imaginary false reality now. And as soon as one picture from anywhere is seen, it'll become a real reality. And maybe that's the point. Producing what is perhaps the only item of merch in existence that could simultaneously speak to the hunting community and Gen Z hype beasts is in itself a message that the Democrat ticket is a broad church. These people are so stupid. I cannot imagine anyone in the hunting community wearing a Kamala Harris hat. The cap's other messaging is less subtle. The online store boasts its patriotic credentials of being both American-made and union-made. At $40, the Harris Walls hats are also $10 more expensive than Roan's, though that is treated as a donation to the Harris Victory Fund. In equally confident style, the online shop describes the Harris Walls cap as being the, quote, most iconic hat in America, end quote. Whether they can surpass Trump's ubiquitous red MAGA hats remains to be seen. Ha ha. But given they won't even be shipped to customers until mid-October, it may prove a tall order. What? Mid-October? That's 2.5 months from now. That's 2 weeks, ostensibly 3 weeks maybe, before we're supposed to have an election. What are they going to do? Put the hats on then and go out and show everybody their Harris Walls camo gear? How are they going to do their little social media campaigns? What are these people talking about? And here's the thing. The chances of there being a Harris Walls by mid-October is very low. I got to think it's very low, man. Other people are more than welcome to disagree. Some people, for whatever reason, get mad if you tell them that something else is going to happen. People just cling on to things being normal so hard sometimes. They don't care if it's terrible. They're like, just let it be terrible, but the way they understand things and not a different way that might be better. Total inversion within the false reality. And I understand it, man. I lived that way. I understand. But eventually you gotta just move beyond it, I guess. You gotta just decide, hey, I'm gonna let all this stuff go and try something new. Speaking of there not being a Kamabla by Kamabla, I think it's Kamabla. At first, I thought he was going for Kambla, like Nambla, which is the pedophile group. But I think it's Kamabla. Kamabla. A lot of blah. Trump he truthed this last night. What are the chances that crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of the United States, whose presidency was unconstitutionally stolen from him by Kamabla, Barack Hussein Obama, crazy Nancy Pelosi, shifty Adam Schiff, crying Chuck Schumer, and others on the lunatic left, crashes the Democrat National Convention and tries to take back the nomination, beginning with challenging me to another debate. He feels that he made a historically tragic mistake by handing over the U.S. presidency, a coup, to the people in the world he most hates, and he wants it back now. So, how do we take Donald Trump to mean there? Or how do we take that to mean when Donald Trump says something like that? Is that a euphemism? It's pretty clear about what he's saying. Is it a joke? Don't think it's a joke. I mean, it could be trolling. So if that's a joke, then fine. I think that Donald Trump is talking about how much control we have achieved over the narrative in this country. That's what I think he's talking about. I think he is telling them, after that series of videos that seem to be fake, just concoctions of AI, and we'll talk in a second about last night's Kamabla rally. If Donald Trump were to seed a Joe Biden comeback video, could that go through the mainstream media and present them with the sort of problem that they would have a very difficult time handling? If full control exists and we are watching these final steps play out, then you can corner people into doing those things with game theory. It's entirely possible. I believe it's entirely possible. And so long as those so long as those AI videos could be believed, you could definitely pull it off. The truth is, their public image at this point, their ability to be taken seriously by anybody, is hanging by the barest of threads. And if you were able to convince people that Joe Biden was challenging Donald Trump to a debate, saying, I can do better this time, and that just went out there and people believed it, man, oh man. I mean, also, a lot of people talk about, do patriots control individuals? Everybody understands that bankers control individuals. Sometimes people understand that oligarchs control individuals, politicians and whatnot. So somebody certainly controlled Joe Biden when Joe Biden was Joe Biden. Somebody certainly controlled Joe Biden when Joe Biden was pretending to be president. Somebody certainly controls Joe Biden now. So it's just a matter of who controls Joe Biden, right? The idea that this stuff's not possible with the stakes at hand and what people will do if they think that they are headed for another certain defeat, I don't think that there is any end to that. Now, we've begun hearing about stories seeded well into early next year at this point. So if you think that this is all just going to stop as the result of some real, organic, spontaneous election, you're nuts. It's not going to stop then. The idea that this is just going to be over on November 5th seems preposterous to me. I expect, I don't know, I've said many times, I think, could be next May. Next May is when Donald Trump says the 250th anniversary celebration of the United States of America is going to begin. I believe him on that when he says that. And because I believe him on that when he says that, I anticipate that this situation could take considerably longer to resolve itself than, the next 90 days. I guess it's 90 days now. It's not a black pill. It's just the way life is. Doesn't matter what happens. After that point, you're still going to have to go do things. You're still not going to like your job if you don't like your job. You're still going to have the same family concerns. Everybody's not just going to get healed and things will be perfect and everyone starts skipping around in the grass. You're still going to have things to do. Now, if you're more stressed out about politics right now than you were 4 years ago, well, not quite 4 years ago, but let's say 3.5 years ago, I would think that you have screws loose. You should definitely be less stressed out now. The adjustment's just going to keep happening. And we are adjusting. And sometimes that adjustment is easy and sometimes it's hard. It's based on everybody's individual situation. Like financially, I got my ass kicked in 2020 because my industry was shut down in a day. A 15-year career I had was gone. And that sucks. But then I had a series of personal challenges in 2022, late 2021, when a friend of mine passed, that were far worse than losing money. So, life just keeps going on and you're going to have challenges no matter what. This is not the most important challenge that there is. It is very important that we have a country that if it's going to be governed with a government that suggests that people can participate, then the people are damn sure allowed to participate. And until we have that, then the idea of a government makes things very unstable. But yeah, it's going to take a little longer and it'll be okay. What else? What else? What else? Oh, I wanted to talk about the augmented reality thing for a minute. Let me see if I got this video in here. I'm going to just see if I can load this native into StreamYard because it'll work better. Oh, it's going to take a minute. You know what? Maybe let's try this. So I want to go through this video. I took this video. I talked about this a little bit last night on Telegram. And I think I posted it on Truth Social as well. I was down, as you know, in Nashville for the Bitcoin conference. Was that 2 weeks ago? And I went to this event called Karate Combat. I guess it's a mixed martial arts kind of event. Maybe eventually a UFC competitor. Maybe people decide that they like this format better than the UFC or something. You know how it goes. So it's just an upstart competitor to the UFC. I want to explain what I see in this room. Okay, so we're in this very small stadium that looks like it could either be a big high school stadium for like high school basketball, a small college. I don't know what the building was, just some kind of auditorium. It's got seats all around the four sides, like an arena, although it's more square. And as I said, it's pretty small. You can see the lower, these bleachers that have been built into the floor. Maybe it's a hockey arena. So these bleachers, there's, 4 bleachers that go on each side of the ring after a few rows of floor seats, announcers, and what have you. Behind and above that is an upper deck of seats, and that goes all the way around as well. Okay. Now, this live event is a television show. They are filming a television show live. The television show just happens to be a reality show about what we assume is real, martial arts combat. So you have television cameras, you have lighting rigs everywhere. This is a big production because it's going to go out on TV. I guess this might enhance the experience for some people in a live audience. I don't love this stuff, but that's fine. You need some of it, right? You need some visual aspects when the fights aren't happening. You need a way to keep people entertained in between, I guess. Okay. So in the back there, you can see one of the big, like, arena style screens that shows you what's being broadcast on television. It's getting the best angle on the fight. It's going to give you a replay between the fights. They're going to cut to the broadcast team. So you're going to see the same thing that you would see as if you were sitting at home. You're going to be seeing it up on that television. And what they are doing is filming in the arena. And I believe that it might be this crane right here that you see in the kind of foreground that is doing the camera work on that shot, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to press play here, and I'm going to pan across the ring here and keep an eye on that screen in the back, because you will see that pan across the arena as well. But rather than seeing that back upper deck of seats, what you'll see is a bunch of graphics on that screen that have been graphically inserted into that shot just right over the seats. And as far as I can tell, by the way, I don't see anything that would be special effects oriented set up to capture this. I don't know this technology. Let me just say that. So if anybody in there knows about this sort of technology for live broadcast, by all means, hit me with it. Let me know how this works. Okay. But I don't see green screen or any effects like that So they are just projecting these graphics. They're inserting them into the live broadcast, which then immediately plays right back into the arena at real time. So watch, you can see the bottom half of that screen is the people in the arena, and then that top half is the graphical projection over where those seats are. I hope that that makes sense. All right. So I hope that you saw what I am talking about. That was, there were graphics on, I wonder if I can just loop this and just keep it playing. I can. All right. So I'm going to turn the sound off on this. I'm just going to keep it playing on the screen. All right. That's working. Great. So you can see all those graphics up there on that screen. They are just inserted directly into the broadcast feed, and they can put up anything they want back there. Obviously, you saw the picture of one of the competitors and his measurements and stats. I think that there's some kind of, that's a Ferris wheel, and then there's like an Eiffel Tower or something. I don't know if it's meant to look like Las Vegas or whatever. They can also make it look like there are just palm trees around and the stadium is outdoors. It's pretty insane. And I thought it was pretty insane standing in there and watching it. Trust me, this video doesn't do it justice. And I totally understand that. I wish it did. I tried filming it like 5 times. It's kind of hard to catch it doing this in a way that gives me all of these aspects in one video. So I just found that incredible. I could be watching the broadcast of what I was watching in real life. I could be watching the television broadcast of that at the same time, and it would make the reality I was looking at in front of me seem somehow different. I'm not saying that I was like imagining that going around the arena and being right in front of me, but it is weird to go from one perspective to another perspective when you think that both of them should be the same. So yeah, a very strange augmentation of reality right there that I got to see in real life and track in real time. And I hope that that makes sense to people, because the one is layered right on top of the other. Now, I'm going to see if I can pull up this picture from last night. We had kind of an interesting conversation on this on Telegram last night, because there was this picture of Kamabla and Walls at their big coming out party. And not a lot about it makes sense. You'll see why in a second. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because, you know, people would say that doesn't really matter. And, you know, on some level, I suppose I could agree with you. Unless we're right. It's one of those things, you know, if it's unknown and we're going to default to it's not that thing, then it's really easy to make an argument why it doesn't matter. But if we, oh God, oh, it's so much worse. Oh, this is going to be funny. Okay. But if we're right, then it does matter. It's one of those things, man. And it's a weird dynamic, and I understand it. This sort of thing frustrates people. I really do get it. But if they are, for instance, just showing us a television show on the entire thing, that's an important additional piece of information to know. You know, it's good to strip away layer after layer after layer, and sometimes you find that there are more layers. So This is a picture that we are told was from last night in Philadelphia. I guess this is at Temple College, and this is their big famous basketball arena or something. I'm not sure. So we have red, white, and blue lights sprinkled all throughout the stadium, including in this upper deck that's absolutely packed for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. 12,000 people, they say. And Kamala did an event like a week or so ago that had like 68 people. This is, and was broadcast as big as a Trump rally. This would be a sizable Trump rally. Can these two pull off a sizable Trump rally in Philadelphia in celebration of a vice president that was named that morning? Well, no. That's insane. I mean, I can't imagine something like that is true or possible. But if it is, okay, that's fine. You know, Philadelphia's very heavily Democrat city as far as vote counts go. Vote counts are fake. Could they get this many people off the couch to come out and see them? I really doubt it, man. Seems really, really difficult to believe. So we were told, I was told, because I asked about this online. I think Karma Patriot hit me with this. She said that Peter Doocy from Fox News had said that they had given out these little wristbands or devices that would put a light on your wrist and they would light up and cause this effect, and that they do the same thing at Taylor Swift concerts. Now, is it possible that they would spend the kind of money to purchase those in order to create this effect for their pictures? Yes, it absolutely is possible that they would do that. Insofar as a device like that exists, I could totally see them paying for that device and doing that. And that would be an argument that all of this is perfectly normal and all good, right? We can be fair to all sides and just come down where we come down. And if you come down in a different place than me, all good. So if that is the device and that's what it is, then that's fine. Maybe they've really done that thing. They packed out this arena somehow. No indication that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden have ever been popular in any way, except through this sort of online illusion generation. But we are still to believe they can put 12,000 people in Philadelphia in an arena to pack it out. And that these are all just natural things. They gave everybody these lights. The Taylor Swift thing to me is a little too convenient because that sounds like they're doing another co-branding opportunity. And then as I'm looking for information on that co-branding opportunity, I see this co-branding opportunity. Kamala Harris's vice president pick, Tim Walz, has a history of Taylor Swift and Beyonce fandom. Well, that's weird. Is he gay? Why don't they just tell us he's gay? He's a communist who shakes his wife's hand and wants tampons in the boys' room. And he wants kids to be able to trans themselves. He likes Taylor Swift and Beyonce. He's gay. It's all good. Why don't they just be honest? Don't be surprised to find Tim Walz sporting friendship bracelets and a cowboy hat on the campaign trail. He's just like everybody's friend. The Minnesota governor, who was selected as Democratic presidential nominee, Kamala Harris's running mate on Tuesday, has a history of pop fandom in his gubernatorial work. Walz has signed numerous bills into law honoring music icons such as rocker Bruce Springsteen and pop provocateur Prince. And hey, man, Prince is awesome. Okay. Prince used to play one of my clubs in LA, and it was the coolest thing ever. Gosh, man, those are the days. But you don't need to sign laws honoring them. What kind of nonsense is this? They are creating a like a night class, like there is in Britain. So Waltz's Swiftie and Bayhive affiliations have galvanized fans of both singers following his vice presidential nomination. Oh, he part of the Hive? Yeah, he solidified my support, Daddy Clark wrote on X Tuesday. So what you have there is a paid campaign, a co-branding opportunity, and then this is very likely a paid article. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bylines in that article. 8, sorry. 1 main byline and then 7 contributors to an article that would take 3 minutes to read about Taylor Swift and Beyonce and how Tim Walz loves them, which means Tim is cool, which means you like Tim. Everybody loves Tim because Tim is cool. Tim is cool because Tim listens to mainstream pop music made for teenage girls by communists. Beyonce's music, by the way, is the most communistic music I could ever imagine. It is insane. And between her songs that are about communism and pro-communism, she gives these long speeches that always talk about victimhood and then like changing the world and then something super empowering to all the girls, particularly the Black girls. And I've seen Beyonce perform live. That's how I know that. It is unbelievable propaganda on absolutely all sides. Oh, yeah. Okay. What should we do? Okay, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. Starborn asked a question in a Rumble rant. How much of Hollywood is gay, Chris? I was actually going to answer M.M. Rhodes' question. I actually met Michael Jackson once. It was cool. It was really weird. How much of Hollywood is gay, Chris? Like actors and singers, what percent, if you don't mind sharing? I guess the truth is I don't know. I mean, I've started to think of gay in the last few years as like super extreme traumatized fornication. Like it's the furthest end of fornication and in some sense an expression of trauma and maybe self-hatred. And I don't mean to say that to shame people. I just try to think about what gets you there psychologically. And it seems like that's a pattern I notice and something that makes sense to me. And if you think that's hateful, I mean, I guess I don't care. What percentage like actors and singers? So, okay. Some degree of probably well above average fornication takes place there with virtually everyone. And all of us fall into that trap. Many people do because it's just everywhere. And when you grow up in a certain culture, I think that you're kind of conditioned to see yourself and everybody else as kind of worthless in that sense. And they certainly take away any idea that sexuality has a morality to it. And so once you get rid of those things, then it's just like so easy for it to always keep getting worse. And so I guess ultimately it's a question of how far people go down that trail. I used to hear stories all the time about how male models would have to do gay shit to get photographers to shoot them. Right. And in some sense, that's like a power thing. And it's exactly equivalent to what happens with the Harvey Weinstein stuff. I think you could say that. And about the Harvey Weinstein stuff, people have to understand that when that's your approach to sexuality and you have a similar approach to virtually everything else in your life, life becomes, in a large sense, morality becomes, in a large sense, transactional. It's about who's going to find out and how much that'll hurt your reputation. If that's not a big deal to you, then you do whatever you want. And if you are able to acquire consent with someone else, that's all it takes for the act to be morally neutral or good. It's just two people doing what they want. All right. So it's not, it's not consent-based morality is not morality. Okay. Two people can consent to doing a bad thing together. And the fact that they've done a bad thing to each other doesn't even it out, because the truth is that both people are probably going to end up experiencing whatever bad feelings doing that bad thing would involve, whether or not the consent was there, because that's just how life works ultimately. And, you know, these are the sorts of things that I didn't think and didn't realize until after I had woken up to a significant degree, but it's nonetheless true. And if people don't talk about this stuff, then no one can actually stop doing it. And, you know, I'm not pleased with every decision I've ever made in my life. You know, my experiences have brought me to the place I am. Okay. And so I try not to live with a ton of regret, but man, I wonder if I would have been happy in other ways had I not gone down certain paths. And I think the answer has to be yes. So, I don't know, man. So then at that point, what would give me the right to call somebody gay? I don't know if somebody is gay. You know, if somebody says that they are gay and they do gay shit on a regular basis, then I'm going to say they're gay. I think you can see a lot of signs from people. And so then you can have your own ideas about who's gay as well. I mean, there are public figures who I think are gay that other people don't think are gay and may not be gay. And they have wives and kids. And sometimes those wives and kids are beards because that's what powerful gay people do if they don't want people to know they're gay. You know, there are always gay rumors about all the biggest celebrities, the biggest rappers, many of the biggest musicians, although for some reason it's not that prevalent there. Usually with musicians, it's like young girls because they started out as young musicians and always had young girls throwing themselves at the guys. So they get compromised in that direction. Other people get compromised in another direction. I don't know, man. I really don't know. It's impossible for me to say that. There is a prohibition on judging it there. That is for certain. I don't find myself wanting to judge the people. I know gay people who I had an acquaintance with, at least, maybe a friendship in some cases. And I would hope that we could still be the same. It wouldn't be different for me. I have different views about what it is they do. But a lot of these people spent their 2020 telling people that I was a Nazi. So, you know, is the judgment then in that case the sin? I mean, it's not a matter of what we're judging, is it? I mean, I'm just saying, hey, man, I think that you should probably not keep doing that with your penis, you know. and they're accusing me of complicity in genocide. So I don't know, man. That's what I have to say about that, I guess. Okay. Well, what an adventure we're all on. All right. So let's go. Man, I missed a lighthearted Lori Rumble rant last week. I remember that she said, darn, you missed these, like in the chat. And I didn't realize it. So, lighthearted Lori, if you remember what you asked, please ask it again and I'll try to answer it. And otherwise, I am going to cut you to the front of the line on these ones. I think we'll have time for all of them. Chris, if the scenario goes this way, there will be no election, in your opinion. Wait. So if there will be no election, in your opinion, why wouldn't there be one? Maybe the threat of World War III or something catastrophic, or the possibility that 2020 elections were rigged with the evidence coming out where people could see it was rigged. And if that was the case, would there be a redo, or would Trump just step in as the winning 2020 president? Oh, the other possibility I'm thinking is that the Q team and Trump team with Space Force Elon will make sure the election coming up would be accurate. So with this scenario, we would have to vote. Now, sure, I've said many times, if somebody wants to prove to me that we are going to have a legitimate election that is fully verifiable by everyone, fully transparent in every way, first off, I think we'd have to have primaries again. Okay? Can't trust the results of these primaries. And all of these candidates who have been sitting in office illegitimately, knowingly, have committed treason. So they can't be in office again. That can't happen. So primaries would have to happen again. Okay? But in that case, I would be more than happy to go vote. I'll give it a try. Again, I'm not trying to destroy things, all right? I'm trying to preserve what it is we're supposed to have, which is real elections. If that's not possible, then we need to talk about something else so that we can have a future with some government, if that's what we're going to have. Otherwise, it'll just become city-states and people will do their things in various places and we'll have an entirely different type of world, one that we're not accustomed to. And in some aspects, it'll be a brave new world. And in others, maybe it'll be a return to the things that people care about more. All right? We're in the process of decentralization. I don't know when that's going to stop. Okay? But if people want to remain with the upside that instances of centralization with decentralized control exist, well, then we have to at least make sure that those are all legitimate and that we have a legitimate way to go about that. I don't think that's asking too much. That is just the most basic thing. Let's keep going with this. Let's look at these other scenarios. Okay, so absent that scenario, there are these other scenarios, all of which have to do with there not being an election. What would cause there not to be an election? The threat of World War III, I do not believe could cause the cancellation of the election, except in a scenario like we saw in Ukraine, okay? If they are able to drum up that sort of thing and then cancel the elections and leave Joe Biden, you know, quote unquote, in power under martial law, they could try that. They could totally try that. And anybody that thinks they couldn't try that is insane. Now, what would martial law mean for them? I doubt that they could actually put anybody in martial law. And I doubt that they have the support to be able to do that. I don't doubt that they would push that narrative as hard as they can for as long as they could and try to bring it up to a point where it is helpful in inciting a civil war. Like if they provide instances of, like, stormtroopers, for instance, going after people and they publicize it in order to get the people to respond, I could see, I get that's a scary scenario. I'm stuttering a lot because I'm trying to think through it. That is a scary scenario, I suppose. I think it's a very low likelihood one. That would be bad, depending on how people would respond. I don't think anybody's going to be buying any of this shit by then. All right. And I don't think anybody's going to look at their governance as legitimate by then. We have a lot of time left. People don't think we do. Minds change quickly. They really do. And I mean, again, I've been talking about this for 4 years. I've always thought that there's going to be one moment where things kind of just break and they flip and people are going to be like, okay, well, now things are different. Man, if they replace Kamala again, if they replace Kamala after they give her the nomination, at some point, people are just going to stop believing all of this. And that is a very good point. And I think that Donald Trump has been bringing us toward that point this entire time. That is what it means to understand that we have fake news. It's not fake news is on the other side. Fake news is the side saying bad things about Donald Trump. It's fake news. They're making up what's happening in the world. Something catastrophic. Again, I don't think something catastrophic can happen. If there are isolated kinetic incidents that they're able to pull off somehow, I would be, I think it's a low probability possibility. Okay. It would surprise me if they were actually able to do something. That said, there are plenty of false flag events that they're able to make organically real and kinetically real in some sense. They could have crazy people out there willing to Go attempt something. So I'm not saying I would never want to rule it out. I see it as unlikely. I see most of the mass shootings at this point, people don't really believe them. Why? Because they're false flags that may have organic elements. But as soon as the story is no longer believable in its fullness and they start to realize the elements of fakery, the rest of it kind of drops away. It's really hard to get yourself emotionally behind something when you know you're being lied to about it in multiple ways. And people do realize that. Like, it doesn't matter what they're going to repeat in public. They can give you all their anti-gun stances. They don't want to go and stick up for some trans shooter while they're also sticking up for trans. This kind of stuff breaks these people's brains. And that's good. I mean, it doesn't make the stories real. The outcome is good. It's important for us as critical thinkers and thinking people who want to be able to govern ourselves and make our own decisions, and then hopefully aid in a community of people, potentially, or your family or whatever it is, in making decisions. It's important for us to understand the difference between truth and falsity. If you cannot understand what's real and what's not real, you cannot be smart. Okay. And maybe I'm wrong about it all. Maybe I'm living in some false reality, and it's the false reality that I think is actually the real reality. But when you question that real reality, does it physically exist? Is it tangible? Is there empirical evidence of it? Does it make sense through an act of pure reason? Can I inquire of it, and will it respond with acceptable answers? The answer to all that is no. So it's pretty obvious to me that that's the false reality. And if you can't distinguish between the two, then I'm not going to trust your decision-making, and I'm not going to want anyone else to, I'm not going to want someone whose decision-making I can't trust to be making decisions for other people. And maybe that situation is untenable for a time. I don't know. Or the other possibility that the 2020 elections were rigged with evidence coming out where people could see it was rigged, and that the case would, okay. So yes, I think that is the most likely thing. I've always thought that that is the most likely thing. I did not think it was going to take us this long. The truth is now, I genuinely believe it could take us longer because people seem to want to get the hose again. And if people need to get the hose again, they need to get it. And the funny thing is, people are going to be so mad at people like me who are like, voting doesn't matter. They're going to go out and they're going to be like, you caused people not to vote. There will be no proof of that whatsoever, logical or otherwise. It'll be one of the dumbest things in the world. They've said it now for 3 cycles, 2021, 2022, 2023. The same people every time. You have to go out and vote. You have to go out and vote. We're going to beat the fraud. Doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. If elections were real, they wouldn't let us vote in them. I don't know how that could possibly be hard to understand at this point. What about the things your government does tells you that they care about you and that they want to hear from you? They tried to poison everybody. I mean, it is unbelievable to me that people think they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, you're right. You did press that button enough times. Never. It's crazy. Okay. So wait, there were 2 other options, I think, because then you asked, so would there be a redo, or would Trump just step in? Now, I'm the kind of person who says that Trump has had some level of control for the last 4 years. Maybe it's just narrative control on his side, and it really is just this detached version of devolution, which is the kind John is more comfortable with. Okay? And listen, John's the devolution guy. I just don't believe that in the situation we had with an insurrection, that the commander-in-chief is somehow required in some way to step down from his role. Do you turn it over to military government? Maybe. And maybe that's the answer. And maybe I'm just being ignorant here. Okay. Totally allow for that. All good. But I think it's more than that. So I would say that Donald Trump's already in some sense been president. He is treated as the other world leaders, obviously, as president. So unless they were also aware that there was some military government in place for the time being, and that Donald Trump would eventually return in some capacity, I don't see how that's possible. Or maybe every president is just a figurehead and it's always only ever military government. I don't think that's the case, but maybe. Or would he just step in? So I don't know if he would just step in, though. And those are your two options. And I just said no to both of them. I don't think that there would be a redo. And I don't think that he might just step in, although I don't rule out either possibility. He might say, we have this election system now. I will, though I won in 2020, I will still put myself to the test and allow the American people to decide. And in that case, they choose him and then he would be president again, I guess. Everybody should at least prepare themselves for the scenario where that happens. And then Trump says, actually, I will step down and I endorse JD Vance to be president. And I hope you will vote for him. I don't like that situation. I would not go out and vote for JD Vance if the elections were not fixed. I think under that condition in particular, with the election evidence coming out, the elections being fixed would be a requirement from everybody before any election were to happen. But otherwise, I wouldn't just accept that that's the guy with no process. I mean, Democrats are having their own kind of version of that right now. Like, oh, wait, we just have to say yes to Kamala now? We never decided that. I mean, their stadium pictures tell a different story. Obviously, if there are actually 12,000 people there, I don't have any reason to believe there actually are 12,000. I guess maybe over the next few weeks, we will see if they're able to maintain any of this kind of media generated momentum. I think that answers the question. Hold on a second. Now, I want to just make sure that Lighthearted Lori didn't ask. Oh, she says she doesn't remember. Okay. Starborn in the chat, $5 says, Chris, what is the most likely Joe Biden dying and Harris being the 47th president or martial law happening in 2024, 2025? Well, I mean, I hope you're just asking me to speculate for fun because obviously I have no idea. I am at least somewhat of the mind that Joe Biden could be well dead by now and may have been dead for quite a long time. So that's possible. So is it likely that he dies? Well, he can't die if he's already dead. So that eliminates that possibility. Is that going to be something that happens in the narrative? I mean, I suppose maybe. I don't know how they need to go about getting him out of there. And I don't know exactly. So let's just run the thought experiment. Joe Biden passes on from this mortal coil at some point in the next 90 days. And at that point, he is no longer president. He is no longer fake president. And then we would watch a television show about the Senate confirming Kamala Harris's vice presidential appointment, which would have to be one of, I would think, although, man, guessing this stuff at this point is crazy, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton. Okay. And then whether or not the Senate would approve of that nomination. I think that there has to be 2/3 Senate consent. Somebody can check me on that. Hold on. Let me see. Maybe Perplexity can answer me really quickly. How much of the Senate must vote for a nominated vice president replacement? Let's see if when there is a vacancy in the office of the vice president, the president nominates a replacement who must be confirmed by a majority vote of both houses of Congress. This process is outlined in Section 2 of the 25th Amendment to the Constitution. Okay, so there it is then. A simple majority vote in both houses. They could actually get they could absolutely get Hillary Clinton in if they needed to. And if Mike Johnson was going to put up some stink about it in the Congress, they would have enough rhinos there to bring a motion to vacate in partnership with the Democrats, and then replace the speaker in partnership with the Democrats. And that speaker would then hold the vote, and the vote would pass. So that's how that scenario would go, I would suspect. And then at that point, man, Hillary would probably start seating Kamala is not eligible to serve due to her citizenship status. Get her ass out of there. And then Hill the Thrill becomes... she will invalidate Kamala Harris's ascent to the presidency in the first place with the eligibility claim. And that will make her the first woman president, breaking that glass ceiling and flying through the firmament into the Oval Office. Oh, man. That'd be great, huh? What fun. All right, 4 hours. All you guys got these questions in nice and early. Okay, Saw This says, just wanted to share with you that your voice was in my head during a recent conversation with my 85-year-old mother. She is a conservative Republican living in the D.C. area since like 1959. She has been having a hard time warming up to the idea of voting for Trump because he, quote unquote, has no decorum. She hates how he talks about and to people, etc. Decorum set me off. I said to her, Mom, if by decorum you mean someone like Lindsey Graham who will sweet talk us into World War III, surely you can agree that this is a completely false sense of decorum. Please do me a favor and vote for the mean guy who started no wars and actually wants peace. She said that convinced her and she would vote for Trump. Thanks to you for coining the party of false decorum. It can change the world once people get it. And Chris, I realize that voting is silly, but change happens cumulatively. So I'm still declaring victory. And that is a victory. That is absolutely wonderful. Yes, the voting is silly, but to the extent that voting is like a positive act toward a declaration of somebody's desire, wonderful. I wish people would desire other things than to have a president who they can't know is legitimately elected. And that is what you're voting for when you vote, not knowing. You're voting for a hope and a prayer and giving your consent to a system that is trying to kill you. So strange to me, but other people like it. Wonderful news about your mom. That's great. I hope it just leads to more productive conversations between the two of you, and maybe leads her to consider maybe the way somebody talks, the way they refer to really terrible people isn't the standard of whether or not that person is acceptable in society. People who would try to keep that person out of society, despite that person's commitment to the truth coming out, whether or not they are always themselves truthful, but their commitment to the truth coming out, if that's not your priority, you're getting something really, really wrong. Mitt Romney, the way Mitt Romney speaks is not better. Mitt Romney speaks in obfuscation and lies. He is an immoral man who has done terrible things and supported a terrible system. Unless all of it's fake, right? You always got to leave that. Maybe it was all just a story that was told. Barring that, he's a really, really bad guy. Okay. And the fact that he is perfectly well spoken and is very well kind of groomed and mannered, that is utterly irrelevant. And we have to realize these things. I actually wrote something of some length back in 2021 or 2022 about, and it's on the Substack somewhere. Can't remember what it's called. But if you search for, if you put, hold on, why don't I just try to find it right now? I don't need to tell you how to do it. I talked about how Mike Lindell and Donald Trump had similar voices that convinced people they weren't worth listening to just based on their voice. Mike Lindell's always, I guess he has a hearing problem or something, they say. He's always talking just a little over volume and very gruff sounding voice. A lot of people feel like he's shouting at them. The article, by the way, on Substack is called Mike Lindell versus the Party of False Decorum. It is the sort of thing that is trained into us in college, especially if we are from small towns as I was, or if we are from other places, that we should speak like the kids who are perfectly polished speakers from all the prep schools and, the private schools, or just kids that were raised in the suburbs and speak very clearly and very, let's say, collegiately. There are a lot of people who are children of someone in an upper income bracket who speak like they are utterly retarded. They don't know anything about anything. They cannot hold conversations. They are not the least bit cultured. They like every standard normal thing. There was a trend on the internet, I don't know how many years ago. I don't know if the word's really still around, but I guess 2017, 2018, talking about basic bitches. Just the girls who just film themselves all day long, putting on their clothes, putting on their makeup, showing you themselves working out, going and getting their special drinks that they like. Then they show themselves preparing their lunch and eating their lunch. Then they talk about what they saw on the internet. They show you what they're watching on television. And the same thing just repeats over and over again. Maybe they have a job. They show you what they're doing at their job. They spend half their job showing you what they're doing. They're just basic bitches. They're just the most standard issue villagers that anyone could ever imagine. There is nothing sophisticated about them. They talk like morons. They just use rap lingo and stuff they saw on Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, and that's how they communicate. And they judge people by their voice. They think that stupid people are the ones who sound like Trump and like Mike Lindell because they judge people by their voice. They don't sound like college people. And if you don't sound like college people, well, then you can't be taken seriously. That's how these people are. Kamala Harris is the prime. Doom Chick 73 said Kamala Harris is a prime example. Kamala is a basic bitch, 100%. Yes, nothing could be more clear than that. Kamala Harris is a basic bitch par excellence. Actually, you know who's the best? AOC. But AOC is maybe a LARP. What else we got? Dynamite says, I really like your take on recovering the U.S. dollar from the grips of the Federal Reserve note structure. I believe the discussion was on hindsight 2020 in relation to the stock market. Your premise was, if I'm remembering correctly, the more fake regime Federal Reserve notes that are pulled out of monetary system circulation and destroyed, the real U.S. dollar value would increase, not being weighed down through the manipulation structure. Could you elaborate again for the audience? Yeah, I mean, so inflation you can cause inflation by increasing the money supply, and that's what they've been doing. When there are more dollars, those dollars are worth less. So we've also had a fiat regime just printing money out of nothing. They just press a button and now there's more money. Now there's $1 trillion more dollars in the world, and your money is worth less because there's more of it. But there's not even really legitimately more of it. There's just more numbers in the big computer. And so there's been so much manipulation through that. And that manipulation has been used to pay off all of these different aspects of the regime. Big time programs, the companies that they send all the money to when they're picking and choosing winners and losers, all the NGOs that they've funded to carry out crimes against humanity, like the global slave trade, all of the money that goes to these foreign wars and the friends who are going to rush in to build back better anytime there's a foreign war, George Soros did it in 2014, pushed all sorts of money into Ukraine to build up businesses and industry there. And, you know, when you rush all this financing in and you have people move in and you build up a city into like a homosexual paradise like Kyiv is, they basically made San Francisco. There's San Francisco in the United States. There's Tel Aviv in Israel. There's Kyiv in Ukraine. And there's probably many more very, very gay cities around the world that are part of like these capitals of Globo Homo. And I'm just describing how it is. All right. They push all that money in there. They push the culture in there. They want the parties. They want all that. And think about how much video we saw of people partying, going out, doing whatever the hell they wanted in Kyiv throughout all of 2022 and all of 2023. And not as much this year because nobody cares anymore. But yeah, man, this is what they do. They create these sorts of cities, and there are so many tentacles involved in doing this from the centralized part of it, and then so many hands in the cookie jar from the decentralized part of it. All of that is working together to run this global criminal enterprise and profit from it. And those people have profited from the nonstop creation of fiat currency, while everyone who's not involved, and certainly not the people opposing it, but while everyone who's not involved gets none of that. And, you know, there might be some trickle down effects, and unfortunately, people just cannot get enough of global regime culture. And we all indulge in different ways. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Sometimes I kick myself, like when I watch NFL games, which I used to watch football all day on a Sunday. Now I'll watch Steelers games most of the time when I'm available and it's easy and I don't have other things to do. And even just for that much of that, I'm like, oh man, what am I doing? I mean, last year, all we saw was Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and Pfizer. That doesn't make you feel good for watching football. Oh, football. I'm going to remember all the times that I used to care a lot about this. I'm going to watch a little sports. It's a nice, relaxing thing to do on a Sunday afternoon. Wait, what? These retards are selling vaccines? Okay, so understand that part. There's all this money out there that has been created out of nothing and then sent to all of these people who are associated in putting this scheme together. Whether it's stealing elections, the global slave trade, the factory farming all around the world, Bill Gates dominating that, creating famines, doing, you know, all of this stuff, whatever it is, think about how many people are involved. Think about how many entities are involved, and all the people who have manipulated that system into their own ill-gotten profit. Okay. People who have legitimately committed crimes against humanity, maybe the drug trafficking stuff Trump talks about, that being the pharma companies, obviously. And hey, maybe he wants to put to death the street level dealers. I highly doubt that'll ever happen. I think he's talking about big pharma. Foreign interference in elections, all these executive orders that call for the freezing of assets, sanctions, and seizures. Now, again, this is my reading and understanding of this. This is how I view this. Other people have different opinions on how to read these executive orders and what their implications are. Okay. So this is what I see as a model. I'm not suggesting I have the model fully and clearly filled in, and I hope that I am able to figure out the rest of it. Some people, everybody's more than welcome to give me feedback, by the way. Sometimes people send me on down the right path. I mean, this is why I like this show. This is why I like my Telegram feed, because I get feedback in real time. That's very important to my process. So what we have are a lot of people with ill-gotten money. We have a fiat regime who has printed all of this fiat currency that has reduced the value of the US dollar. And in addition to the sanctions and manipulation that they've done on the rest of the world, those countries as well are separating from the dollar and getting rid of their dollar holdings. Okay, so they're pulling out of that. So there's all this stuff that was fiat based that needs to be dealt with and is being dealt with. And so I look at something like Warren Buffett selling out of Apple the other day. And I think, okay, they're talking about, I think it was like $300 billion. Let me see if I can find it. Where is the Buffett thing? $277 billion. He halves his Apple stake. Now that having his stake should be a clue. He's just not trying to pull it all out at once. He thinks something terrible is going to happen, but he doesn't want to pull it all out at once. Apple, the $1 trillion company. So he pulls out $250 billion, more than $250 billion, $277 billion. So Warren Buffett is clearly somebody that's tied in with all this stuff. If anybody should be a target for drainage, after maybe George Soros and Hans-Jörg Wyss and a couple of those people, right up there on the list somewhere has got to be Warren Buffett. And so if you were going to strip Warren Buffett of his holdings, well, you would take this big stock portfolio and sell it so that the shares go back on the open market. Now that's going to crash Apple stock to some degree. And people will be like, whoa, but they'll also know exactly why it happened. And so now there's just a whole bunch more shares on the market. So anybody who's actually interested in Apple, theoretically, should be able to acquire shares for less than before. Now they own Warren Buffett shares. And of course, their investment has gone up. So Apple's going to stay roughly steady. The retail investors might take a little hit, but that will come back, assuming everything else remains the same for Apple and they're not taken apart or whatever. And hey, they might be. I wouldn't be invested in stocks like that. But if that comes back, then the investors are all whole. And so now we've got Buffett's $277 billion in Apple stock. Now that's just $277 billion in cash. Now I talked to John the other day about the executive orders, asking this specifically. And, there's that theory. Joe Lang has talked about it. Some people take the hard version on it and they're like, yes, the Fed is just part of the Treasury now. And some people take a softer version of it and say, Trump has his people in place at the Fed, so they are operating as an arm of the Trump Treasury. So it could work in either case, but obviously the hard case where the Fed is actually back under fully the Treasury now, then that would be where the sanctions, the freezing, and the seizures would all happen. That would be where that's getting directed. And Elon Musk had this really interesting tweet the other day. He said, let me see if I can find it. Whatever. If I can't find it, whatever. He said Warren Buffett is basically the Fed. And that to me was really just such a strange thing to say. Is he saying Warren Buffett is rich? Well, sure, Warren Buffett's rich, but Elon Musk is rich. Elon Musk is really, really rich. Is he the world's richest man? Some people say he is, or has been at times, but he's up there. He's really, really, really rich. So is he calling Warren Buffett the Fed, or is he saying that what people know to be Warren Buffett is Warren Buffett's fortune, more or less? And is Warren Buffett's fortune now just the Fed? Has all of that been seized and now they are washing that money back through the system? This is like reverse money laundering. That's how I think of it. They need to get the stock back to the retail investors or the company. So if you're forced to sell and then that cash is confiscated, well, then you can just make that cash go bye-bye, either by changing it into Bitcoin or just simply erasing it from the money supply because it was created via fiat means in the first place. And so I think that gets us most of the way around that circle. And I hope that makes sense. But that's how I see this aspect of this working. And then we'll see companies ultimately seized and privatized as well, to the extent that Twitter was ever, anything but an arm of the federal government. It was a publicly traded stock company. So it's owned by everybody and the federal government, but really it's just owned by its investors. Wink, wink. That's how it used to be. Now it's been privatized and it is owned by Elon Musk, quote unquote, who seems to just still be the public face of a Defense Department company. The censorship on there is still at a very high level. The manipulation is still at a very high level. People have not been allowed back. Other people have been blocked and censored and banned. Not to go on too long about this, but I just the other day found out that my account had been infiltrated. I don't know, hacked is the right word. I'm not sure. Maybe I fell for some sort of phishing thing on Twitter. I don't know what happened, but the account was taken over. My access was blocked. The login information was changed. The contact information, the cell phone and email apparently must have been changed. And when I inquired about this, making it quite clear to Twitter, there's no way that they're confused about this, that I was sending from my phone and from my email and phone number that I had used to sign up for that account. And I still had access to those things and could confirm that it was my account. And of course, I was also verified, so they could easily confirm my payment information and my identity. They absolutely have the tools to know all that and do know all that. And they still told me, I still received the response, I should say, that I could not access my account again. So, who knows if I would have come back or not. It's been over 7 months now, nearly 7.5 months. But now I don't have the option. So those 35,000 followers or whatever it was, that's gone. Apparently. I don't know. We'll see. So, yeah, I think of all of this stuff just as drainage. I call it drainage. This has to happen. There are legal reasons and mechanisms for this stuff to happen. I mean, man, I am open to the philosophical conversation about whether retribution is possible in a world that might be emerging, and in the best possible world that might be emerging. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's its own separate question. But as far as drainage goes, I think that that's a pretty good rough sketch of how I see that operating. I guess in the future, we'll find out if I'm right or not. I don't have the motivation to go out and attempt to prove that. And I don't think that the proof would come from any sorts of official documents or anything like that anyway. Although, I mean, if there was some way to prove that the money was actually being removed from the system and we started getting hints about that, then I think that would be very strong evidence, very strong direct evidence that I'm right. Otherwise, what we have is the ability to see if future events as they emerge map onto the reality as I have just described it. I anticipate that in the course of the next 6 to 9 months, we will see the same thing that happened with Twitter, happen with TikTok. It already happened in 2020. When that is announced, people will believe it's happening in 2024 is because they are behind on an informational timeline. It happened in 2020. I've said that for a long time, and I guess we'll see if I'm right. But that's how things are proven. We should stop pretending that things get proven with documents. That's not the sort of world we live in. Carla said this, and this will probably be the last question, unless I see Rumble Rants. We're coming up on 2 hours. Here is what the UK Director of Public Prosecutions of England and Wales has threatened UK residents with, but the fiery but peaceful protests are fine. Funny how as soon as they stopped studying text like 1984, we immediately started living in it. Well, yeah, 1984 has not seemed like fiction to me for quite a long time. And I was actually writing a dystopian fiction novel a few years ago until honestly, Badlands started, and all my attention is now on creating shows and content between mine and Badlands shows. But one day I will probably finish that. The strange thing about writing dystopian future that connects to the reality that we exist in now is that often reality will outpace whatever we can think of in our dystopia. And then the thing, if you want to really mess yourself up, all of the writing of these sorts of things uploads itself to the cloud, which of course then means it's analyzed by the same algorithms and systems that are analyzing everything else that we all write, but certainly a person who's been consistently targeted like me. And what are you supposed to make of that? But yeah, I actually was, I wonder if it would still work or not. I'm going to hold on to it for a little while. There was an element where professional athletes were transing themselves, and I'm not sure we're all that far off from that. And it might already be here. So let's go to this Libs of TikTok thing. Libs of TikTok, by the way, is an obvious info op. I mean, by all means, follow it if you want, but understand you're being opt. Okay. The question with this stuff is not how can people be like this? It is what do the people running the Libs of TikTok op want me to believe, and who is running it? Those are bigger, more important questions than whatever this communist is about to do. Although this is not the normal communist. This is a news clip, not some dummy on TikTok doing something stupid.
The offence of incitement to racial hatred involves publishing or distributing material which is insulting or abusive, which is intended to or likely to start racial hatred. So if you retweet that, then you're republishing that, and then potentially you're committing that offence. And we do have dedicated police officers who are scouring social media. Their job is to look for this material and then follow up with identification, arrests, and so forth. So it's a really, really serious. People might think they're not doing anything harmful. They are, and the consequences will be visited upon them.
Now, man, I look at that and think, well, either that's fake and it's meant to rile people up and it's just part of this op. And, we talked about Tomorrowland last night, Burning Bright and I did. And you know what? Let's watch this clip as well. It's worth it. Because it'll frame this a little bit. Hold for processing.
Let's imagine if you glimpsed the future, were frightened by what you saw, what would you do with that information? You would go to politicians, captains of industry, and how would you convince them? Data, facts. Good luck. The only facts they won't challenge are the ones that keep the wheels greased and the dollars rolling in. But what if there was a way of skipping the middleman, putting the critical news directly into everyone's head? The probability of widespread annihilation kept going up. The only way to stop it was to show it, to scare people straight. Because what reasonable human being wouldn't be galvanized by the potential destruction of everything they've ever known or loved? To save civilization, I would show its collapse. But how do you think this vision was received? How do you think people responded to the prospect of imminent doom? They gobbled it up like a chocolate eclair. They didn't fear their demise. They repackaged it. It can be enjoyed as video games, as TV shows, books, movies. The entire world wholeheartedly embraced the apocalypse and sprinted towards it with gleeful abandon. Meanwhile, your Earth was crumbling all around you. You've got simultaneous epidemics of obesity and starvation. Explain that one. Bees and butterflies start to disappear. The glaciers melt. Algae blooms all around you. The coal mine canaries are dropping dead, and you won't take the hint. In every moment, there is the possibility of a better future. But you people won't believe it. And because you won't believe it, you won't do what is necessary to make it a reality. So you dwell on this terrible future. You resign yourselves to it. For one reason, because that future doesn't ask anything of you today. So, yes, we saw the iceberg, warned the Titanic. But you all just steered for it anyway, full steam ahead. Why? Because you want to sink. You gave up. That's not the monitor's fault. That's yours.
All right. So, pretty clear what's happening there. He's talking about showing people. Yeah, sorry guys that was quiet. There's nothing I can do about the sound on the YouTube clip. Did my best. So he's talking about how they're showing the destruction of everything in order to get people to understand that if they don't change their ways, everything will be destroyed. He's giving them a dark picture of the future unless they do what they need to do to avoid it. Now, that there's certainly a parallel in our experience right now with what's shown on the screen, with what's shown on the monitor. And it doesn't have to be real. It's making people react a certain way. Now, some people are reacting really terribly. They get really scared. They believe whatever the TV says, and then they do whatever the TV suggests they do. That's the point of the TV. That's the problem. That's why people are so atomized and so detached that they actually don't want to make things better. So it's kind of one of those problems that a villain of a film like this would have. What they really want is the control. The people aren't going to do the better thing because the thing that's brainwashing them specifically makes them not want the better thing. And so then those people are just systematically eliminated or what have you. And then it's called evolution because they didn't do what it takes to survive. And it's really sick. But that stuff could be going on. Or we could be getting a show that shows up, hopefully maybe we'll get the better reaction because maybe that is the show. Maybe that's the show from the kind of white hat side as well. If they're trying to red pill everybody and wake everybody up, that's a pretty damn good way to do it. The police are going to come knocking on your door if you retweet something. Well, at that point, do people decide to grovel? A lot of people do decide to grovel. And that's why I have such a problem with people who were never censored and who put themselves forward as these truth people and who are set up by whatever this op is that Peter Thiel seems to be leading, that pushes these people always in to broad public view because they're not doing the best they can. They're self-censoring so that they don't get punished by the machine and so that they can keep reaping the rewards from the incentive structure of the machine. And that's really very annoying. I mean, we're not to the point where they're saying they're going to come to our house and arrest us for retweeting things, but there's a pessimistic view of what could happen that would entail that sort of thing. And, I've said it before, they can fucking martyr me. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to stop saying things on the internet in a country that pretends it has free speech. What could be more preposterous than being scared of these communists? We're already talking about the weakest, stupidest people who are not willing to compete in a legitimate meritocracy that yields hierarchies that they don't want, where they will end up at the bottom because they're not that smart. They're not that physically capable. They're not that motivated. They're not that moral. So people won't want to partner with them and work with them. We have a system, set up to advantage those people. And if they lose that system, it all goes away. So why would I help them maintain their system by doing what they say? I'm not going to do that. Nobody else should do that either. And man, if the people of the UK are going to get scared into silence online, I guess grovel. You'll be groveling forever. You've been groveling. They have royalty there, and people pretend to respect it. It's gross. I don't know, man. I don't want anybody to lose their speech, and I don't want anybody's flow of information to be disrupted. I know that there are a lot of wonderful people in England or in the UK or however they want to refer to themselves who do not grovel, and wonderful. I'm not trying to besmirch an entire people, but the grovelers will grovel. That's what they do. That's what they've always done. Grovelers will grovel. And so everybody has that choice to make for themselves. I am going to check. Lighthearted Lori says, we will bail you out, Chris. Thank you very much. Okay. Wow. S. Connor 2020, $100. Thanks, Chris. Well, thank you, obviously. Ask a question, S. Connor. Oh, here we go. Lighthearted Lori, $5. Chris, my question from when I was a youngster was, what is my purpose? And I have to tell you that you have had such a huge purpose. Thank you, my friend. Oh, well, that's lovely. Well, I mean, I don't know what my purpose is. I know what my purpose is right now. I think it's to try to tell the truth about the things that I was trying to hide about myself and what I saw, and trying to discover truth for myself and about the world along the way. And I hope that that brings good things into my life. It has so far. I have many, many things to be very grateful for. And when I thank God, it is primarily for his grace. And I guess with that, I will leave everybody until next week. I will be on the normal podcast tomorrow. So I will be back tomorrow at the same reasonable time on the same reasonable podcast network. I don't have a network. Masks and lockdowns don't work. They lied to you about a pandemic, and Joe Biden will never be president.
Well,
what?
You know who I am, don't you?
Well, you ain't Fiona Apple, and if you ain't Fiona Apple, I don't give a rat's ass.
Ah!
And I will not let you down.
We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
What, big one?